Hey, what's up? Welcome to Degen Ed. That's degenerative education, meaning none of this is financial advice. Just me having fun looking at charts like the chart behind me, which is of NIO, ticker symbol NIO. And so I want to note that I am recording this during trading hours on Tuesday, February 27th. And the current price is right around $5.78, but this will be changing over the course of the video because the market's open. And I also want to note that earnings are coming up on March 5th. So that's next Tuesday, which happens to be the day that I do weekly coverage of NIO. And also, do want to note that their earnings call is Tuesday morning. So that's going to be 7 a.m. Eastern time. And so I will be able to stream that, probably starting it 15 minutes before the earnings call, just to make sure everything, the connections are good. So if you do want to join for the earnings release and their call, make sure you subscribe to the channel and join for that. Should be a lot of fun, very interesting to go over. And also, while I do have Chrome up, do want to point out that the max pain for NIO closing this week on Friday, March 1st, is $6 a share, which is higher than the current price being just below it. So, I do think there is potential for price to be moving up, but, I do just want to go over the levels that I have covered in previous videos and update them now that we have hit a new low in this cycle following a bounce. So I just want to go over those levels. But first, following last week's video, which I put out on Tuesday, February 20th, when this candle was being formed, it does look like on that day we did close above this Fibonacci level, the 382, at a price of $5.94. And so we did close on that day 2 cents above that at $5.96. But the following day, it does look like we put in this kind of, topping signal with an inverted hammer candle on a red day, actually being up, just about, almost flat on the day, going up 0.17%, but opening higher, closing lower. That did suggest a reversal. Also, not being able to close above the psychological level of $6 a share, closing just 1 cent above the previous day's close, closing here on the 21st at $5.97, and then coming down to hit a bottom on February 23rd with a low on the day of $5.37. So I did a retracement from the top to the bottom here, so we'll explore some of those levels there. But before I do that, I just kind of want to explore why we found a bottom here on the 23rd, why we hit that level and closed at a price of $5.40. What's significant about that level? And so one thing that stands out to me is this blue line here marked at $5.48. That was the high as well as the open price before this gap up. So there was a gap there that needed to be filled, and that gap was filled on February 23rd. So I think it's good that we have that behind us. Also, there is this red line here that is the 1618 extension from a Fibonacci retracement that I did previously from this run up following this massive drawdown in price. And so that was at a price of $5.43. Going over that number, mentioning that number, $5.43, I had suggested that that could be a bottom, and that was actually hit on January 31st. I had an order placed then. That order was not filled, but it was later filled on February 2nd, and then we got a dip down to a low of $5.30 on February 5th. So that is a level that was significant on the way down here, and so I do think that it is nice that we tested that, and that served as a bottom, as a low, but a higher low. So I do think that is good. And then also I do have this white downtrending level, which does look like it could be the bottom of this potential wedge that we could be breaking out of at some point, which would be going back to, a price of around $10 a share where there's this gap to the upside. So potentially we could be, breaking out of that wedge, and right now we are at the bottom of it. So it could be a great buying opportunity at a price of below $6 a share, especially with earnings coming up. So yeah, I mean, I do think that it is good that we bounced at that level. It was below the 786 level from this Fibonacci retracement, and that was at a price of $5.52. So a little bit of a fake out there. The following day on February 26th, that was yesterday, Monday, we did open and close above that 786. So it is showing some strength. However, while the candle is not finished forming for the day of February 27th, it does not look that good. We do have this big topping signal with the wick coming up here, not being able to make it to the 382 at a price of $5.94, and currently trading below $5.82 at the 50% retracement. And so, but considering that, these levels from this retracement to the upside are really to suggest levels to the downside that would act as support. So if we wanted to find where there might be resistance, that would be doing a retracement from the top here to the bottom here. And so I've already done that. I've just graded out, so I'm going to bring them back into picture so we can get an idea of where price might be finding resistance and settling out at. And what stands out to me is that it looks like today we attempted to get to the 618 at a price of $5.97, also being the psychological level right around $6 a share. And it doesn't look like we're getting there, or at least haven't yet today. So far, the high for the day is $5.93, so getting rejected from that level, as well as the 382 from this retracement going to the upside at $5.94. So couldn't even get to there, just 1 cent below it. And so it looks to me like we are bumping into resistance at the 50% level from this retracement at a price of $5.85. And so what I suspect will happen is that we will hopefully, my hope is that we find support at the 382 at $5.74. But, if we do get a close today below $5.74, that would suggest to me that we are probably going to be retracing to the 236 at a price of $5.60. So if $5.74 doesn't hold, or $5.70 based on this retracement, the 618 from the way up, if these levels don't hold, I do think that we will be returning to $5.60, but that could serve as a nice launching pad before earnings next week. And, I do feel like, as I had mentioned, that price could be going up a lot higher, not only to filling these gaps to the upside, potentially getting up to $10 a share, but potentially to breaking out of this wedge and moving to these extensions, going up to $12.21, $16.48. I do think that those are long-term targets for the stock. We definitely have other key levels that we need to get to first, specifically being $7 a share marked by this purple line. I think that's going to be a key psychological level, and it did serve as a lot of support over here. If I do throw up the volume profile, we have a lot of consolidation that we can see as this volume shelf. It's going to be tough to get above $7 a share. But if earnings are good, if things are looking good for the company, I do think that we could be seeing perhaps a return to these lower levels like $5.60 before earnings, but then potentially a launch to $7 a share following earnings. So that's at least how I feel, but I am hoping currently for the day, for the week, that we are able to hold above $5.74, ideally getting a close above yesterday's high, which was $5.77. That would show a lot of strength, in my opinion, that while it does look like we are getting some topping signals here, if we can close above yesterday's high, that would mean that there's potential for further upside. But ultimately, I do think that we will at least be settling at $5.74 before continuing higher, but more realistically, getting to $5.60, especially because above current price at the 50% level, we do see this volume shelf sticking out. So it's probably going to be tough to get above that. And we might need to come back to $5.60, where the volume shelf is much smaller, just this little blip there. So we get some consolidation there. So this level becomes more pronounced. We get a nice launching pad 4 moves higher before earnings. But, those are just my thoughts, and if you found them helpful, make sure you like the video, share your thoughts in the comments down below, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this and coverage of NEO. Looking forward to seeing you during their earnings call. Take care.